I am bound to them, though I cannot look into their eyes or hear their voices. I honor their history. I cherish their lives. I will tell their story. I will remember them, for I am the result of their love, struggles, sacrifices, and journeys. Richard Peyton Bailey Sr. was my fifth great-grandfather on the Klein side of my family. He was born in England in 1735 and immigrated to Virginia with his parents as a young boy. During the Revolutionary War, Grandpa Bailey served under General Washington at Valley Forge with Captain James Harris in the 3rd Brigade, 15th Virginia Regiment. After his service in the war, he and his wife Elizabeth were one of the first pioneer settlers in the Bluefield, Virginia area. Here, he helped construct the Davidson-Bailey Fort to protect pioneers from Native American attacks. Their son Archibald and his wife had a daughter, Elizabeth, who married James Klein, my third great-grandfather, in 1833. James had a son, also named James, and his son, named Frederick, also my dad's name, was my Grandma Irene's father. There were a number of Kleins who found themselves right in the middle of the famous Hatfield-McCoy feud. One of the most involved was my first cousin, 5 times removed, Perry Klein. Perry was the son of my uncle Jacob Klein, who was also called Rich Jake because of his several thousand acres of land and livestock. When Uncle Jake passed in 1858, he left 2,500 acres to his orphan son Perry, who was 9 years old. Later, after the Civil War, the issues of the feud began. There was a 5-year-long land dispute between Anderson Devilance Hatfield and Perry regarding the land he had inherited. For disputed and very unclear reasons, the land was eventually sold or traded to Hatfield. Perry was a self-educated man who would eventually become an attorney and an elected leader of the community, both as a sheriff, school commissioner, and as a representative in the Kentucky legislature. Christian Goebel, my fourth great-grandfather, was born April 19, 1754 in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Christian enlisted on July 20th, 1776 and served in Colonel Griffin's Maryland Regiment of the Flying Camp during the Revolutionary War. He was in the battles of White Plains and Fort Washington, where he was taken prisoner to New York City and held for 3 months. Upon his release, in poor health, he returned home. In the fall of 1780, Christian married Sarah Guise, and they had at least 13 children, including my third great-grandfather, Isaac, in 1798. After the turn of the century, the family moved to Virginia and then Kentucky. Christian died on May 7, 1834, and is buried here in the Fraley Goebel Cemetery in Martin County, Kentucky. The Goebel family cemetery is just a few ridges over from the Fraley Cemetery. There are a number of Goebels laid to rest here in this cemetery. Many of them are most likely kinfolk. On the other side of Route 3, you can find the DeLong Cemetery. Here, my third great-grandfather, Harvey Gaines DeLong, is laid to rest with my grandmother, Nancy Ann. Grandpa DeLong served in the 14th Regiment of the Kentucky Infantry on the Union side during the Civil War. Their daughter, Minerva, married Oda Sergeant Goebel, my second great-grandfather. Together, they had a son, Emery, my great-grandfather, who passed in 1937 and was laid to rest in Randall, Washington. Peter Klein was my fifth great-grandfather. He was born in 1756. During the Revolutionary War, Grandpa Klein joined the militia in 1774 and then served in the 12th Pennsylvania Regiment of the Continental Army. He was engaged in the following battles against the British: Long Island, White Plains, Trenton, and Germantown. He also spent the winter of 1778 through 79 at Valley Forge with General Washington. After the war, he traveled down to Virginia and eventually settled on the Tug Fork of the Big Sandy River. This area is the present-day border between West Virginia and Kentucky. Here he lived a frontier life on Peter Creek, in a cabin, hunting and trapping, and occasionally making whiskey with his wife Elizabeth, and their growing family. He passed in 1843. The area surrounding the Tug Fork later became the epicenter of the Hatfield and McCoy feud. The site of the old homestead is long gone, but the area is still wild, beautiful, and oddly familiar.